And so there's a few questions there, but one is, how do you stay on the moon? What ideas do you have about
Yeah.
like a sustaining life where a few folks can stay there for prolonged periods of time?
Well, one of the things we're working on is using lunar resources like lunar regolith
Mhm.
to manufacture commodities and even solar cells on the surface of the moon. We've already built a solar cell that is completely made from lunar regolith simulant. And this solar cell is only about 7% power efficient. So it's very inefficient compared to, the more advanced solar cells that we make here on Earth. But if you can figure out how to make a practical solar cell factory that you can land on the surface of the moon,
Mhm.
and then the raw material for those solar cells is simply lunar regolith, then you can just, continue to churn out solar cells on the surface of the moon, have lots of power on the surface of the moon. That will make it easier for people to live on the moon. Similarly, we're working on extracting oxygen from lunar regolith. So lunar regolith by weight has a lot of oxygen in it. It's bound very tightly, in as oxides with other elements, and so you have to separate the oxygen, which is very energy intensive. So that also could work together with the solar cells. But if you can, and then ultimately, we may be able to find practical quantities of ice in the permanently shadowed craters on the poles of the moon. And we know there is ice water in those, or water ice in those craters. And we know that we can break that down with electrolysis into hydrogen and oxygen. And then you'd not only have oxygen, but you'd also have a very good high efficiency propellant fuel in hydrogen. So there's a lot we can do to make the moon more sustainable over time. But the very first step, the kind of gate that all of that has to go through, is we need to be able to land cargo and humans on the surface of the moon at an acceptable cost.
To fast forward a little bit, is there any chance Jeff Bezos steps foot on the moon and on Mars? One or the other or both?
It's very unlikely. I think it's probably something that gets done by future generations by the time it
Right.
gets to me. I think in my lifetime, that's probably going to be done by professional astronauts.
Hmm.
Sadly, I
Yeah.
would love to sign up for that mission. So don't count me out yet, Lex. Give me a
Yeah.
fighting shot here,
Yeah.
maybe. But I think if we are placing reasonable bets on such a thing in my lifetime, that will continue to be done by professional astronauts
Yeah. So these are risky, difficult missions.
and probably missions that require a lot of training.
Yeah.
You are going there for a very specific purpose to do something. We're going to be able to do a lot on the moon too with automation. So, in terms of setting up these factories and doing all that, we're sophisticated enough now with automation that we probably don't need humans to tend those factories and machines. Um, so there's a lot that's going to be done in both modes.